All right, good morning, everybody. We do have a great panel, so again, we want to go ahead and get started. I'm Adam Jones. I'm the chair of the Small Business Council this year, and I'm with Jones McCadden and Associates, an association management and government relations firm down on Assembly Street. Today's panel topics is headshots and handshakes. We're going to focus this morning on obviously what it's like to give elevator pitches and meeting and networking. Headshots will continue, as I said, so we're trying to limit to about 5 people. Don't get out of line, but we also want a group here listening. But first, I'd like to extend our appreciation to our sponsors. We'd like to thank Blue Cross Blue Shield for their generous support, and a warm thank you to Segra Park for hosting us this morning. So I'd like to have both Steve Padgett and Brad Shank come up and give a few words. Well, I see Brad.
Digging that belt, Steve.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody is loving this warm weather. I know we are as we're getting ready for baseball season. So just to give you a couple heads up about some things coming up. So we are just 3 days away from Battle at Bull Street, which is 2 teams within this state, one that's orange, one that's garnet. May have heard of them. They're going to be playing out on our field. So it's not frost on the field. Those are actually growth blankets. So we are trying to keep the grass safe from all these cold nights that we've been having lately and make sure we've got a green playing field on Saturday. As of right now, we have over 8,200 tickets sold for that game. We're down to concourse passes and standing room only. Probably have about 800 or 900 more tickets, and then we'll be completely sold out. So everybody pray for no rain on Saturday, because that would not be fun. Other than that, we are just getting ready to kick off our season here. We've got a ton of things going on. Obviously, you can see the development around us is continuing to grow every single day. So we're excited about what's to come this year. We have some fun things going. We're going to shoot a guy out of a cannon in May. So if you haven't ever seen a guy shot from center field to home plate, right, that is something we've got going on. We've also got some other fun nights throughout the season. If you have kids, we have a Bluey night. So Bluey will be here at the ballpark. Also Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol characters will be here, and then we'll have some other fun things going throughout the year. So thank you guys for coming out. We always love having y'all out here, and hopefully you have a great headshot. I'm sure y'all look great. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. I know I love Firefly baseball, and it's been a great addition to Columbia. Steve is sick today, but I will say, since you're small businesses, Blue Cross does have a great plan for small businesses. I know I've reached out to Steve. He can quote you for as many as 1 employee. So if you're looking for insurance, look up Steve Padgett online. Before we proceed, I am thrilled to take a moment to recognize and extend our gratitude from the Chamber to our new partners. So I would love for any new Chamber partners to stand up and be recognized. Any new partners here? Maybe they're all partners because they're standing, but if not. But as an acknowledgement to our new partners, something that we're going to start new at our small business breakouts is we're going to give the opportunity as a door prize to let 2 small business folks come up and talk about their business. So you put your business card in the thing, and we'll choose those for the next breakout. We'll have 2 of our members get to come up and give hopefully the elevator pitch that you're going to write later to give us a little bit to know about what your small business does. So again, if you haven't dropped your business card, somebody will come around probably before the drawing and get those. So our panel again is on elevator pitches, first impressions, and so that's what we're going to be focusing on today. I'm sure most of y'all probably have this honed, but I always say there's a couple different kind of elevator pitches. It's if you have 1 level like here, that's a short one, but you might be at the AT&T building or whatever it's called now. You might have a couple floors. So we're going to learn a little bit how to hone those into either a short pitch or a big pitch. Again, with the headshots, thanks to Gypsum and Rye for Curated with Lynn for the headshots. So again, we do want to keep that line a little low, but they will keep going. But please pay attention to the panel because we have some great panels. So now I'd like to dive into it. I'm going to ask each panelist to introduce themselves, and then we'll get to the question. Nicole?
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Morgan, and I am the Chief Development Officer at the Columbia Museum of Art.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Wendell Jones, and I own the Wendell Jones Leadership Institution, and I also am a state representative. I get the privilege of teaching the Minority Business Accelerator Program at the Columbia Chamber, Greenville Chamber, as well as Charleston Chamber.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jean Cecil Frick, and I am a member of the leadership team at NP Strategy. We are a strategic communications firm. We help organizations with messaging, crisis communications, media relations, and things like that.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's jump back right in. And so if there's, we're going to go down the line with each question. And if they've already covered something you don't have anything to add, just let us know and we'll go to the next question. But our first question is, what is an elevator pitch? What is its purpose? And what key elements make a compelling elevator speak pitch?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
All right. So I was thinking about this question, and for me, an elevator pitch is really a doorway to a conversation. And it's my hope is to open that door and make a connection with a person so that we can have hopefully a larger conversation and connect on a much deeper level. And ultimately, in my life, I have shaped my elevator pitch in a lot of different ways, but I think right now what I'm finding is most important for me is the human element of it, right? That I show up as my most authentic self when possible.
All right. Let me tell you first what I believe the aim of the elevator pitch is. And this is what I tell my students all the time, and they fight me for about a month or two until they realize it actually works. The aim of the elevator pitch is for you to not be forgotten. You can't afford to be forgotten. And so in that same vein, guess what you have to do? You got to be a little audacious. So I told you about my company and what have you. If I were coming up to you in terms of an elevator pitch and related to my company, I would not go, hey, my name is Wendell Jones. I own Wendell Jones Leadership Institution. Because what you will begin to hear is the same sounds from the Charlie Brown cartoon, wah, 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 wah. I would say, hey, I'm Wendell Jones, and I stabilize local economies. Because the goal is this. If you picture an elevator pitch, picture yourself in an elevator. When you introduce yourself, you want to say something that makes the person in the elevator turn to you. Something that makes them want to inquire more about you. So you can stop trying to sell yourself. They're inquisitive now. And so now there's a connection, human to human, because business is relationship. They really don't care about your expertise at the beginning. They want to know if they're trying to decide if they like you. Give them something to like.
Well, I can't add too much more than what's already been said, but an elevator pitch is truly how are you introducing yourself, and like Nicole and Wendell have said, trying to make a connection with someone. I think the most important thing about an elevator pitch is to be authentic, be yourself, and try to come up with something that will allow you to have a hook. Just like Wendell said, where the person in front of you wants to engage and learn a little bit more. But an elevator pitch is not just about what you're saying, but it's reading the person across from you, making eye contact and picking up on the cues that they're giving you of are they paying attention, and in what ways do you need to pivot the conversation based on the cues you're getting from the other person.
Very good. Okay, I know, so I have a firm and then I have clients. So I personally have 4 elevator pitches. 3 of them are pretty similar, so I'm lucky on that. But in your mind, we'll go this way down this time. How do you craft an elevator pitch and how long should it be?
I think an elevator pitch should be short and compelling, because it just needs to start the conversation. And so something about myself that I'll just share right now, I have a double first name. So my name is Jean Cecil, and I don't care to be called Jean. And so a lot of times in my elevator pitch, I just break the ice. I say, my name is Jean Cecil. I like to be called JC. And so it's when you're forming an elevator pitch, again, reinforcing being authentic. So you want to say who you are, who you work for. But beyond that, what do you do within that organization? I always say you don't just want to give your title of an organization, of whatever organization you work for, because that just, it's wah-wah, like Charlie Brown, as Wendell said, like, okay, I'm an account manager. Well, what does it mean to be an account manager? What do you actually do within your organization? And whomever you're speaking with, you want to be thinking about, what can I do for you? So when you're crafting an elevator pitch, you want to sell what you provide, but you want to sell it in a way that it is compelling to them to want to take it or learn more about it.
Awesome. When you're crafting your elevator pitch, you really need to be very familiar with the pain points of your client. The pain points let you know what the reason they would even consider engaging with you. And so once you nail the pain points, we're already connecting. Because I've already stepped over into your world, and we're building a relationship right out of the gate. And it makes an easier segue into eventually talking about how you solve that problem. And so you got to remember that. It's not about you. The temptation with elevator pitches is to make it all about you. You don't matter yet. The person across from you matters. And so you make sure you articulate that I understand the world that you live in, and I'm here to make it better for you.
Wendell, I think you did such a beautiful job of actually getting to the crux of this when you were first speaking about you help to stabilize local economies, right? Like, you're solving a problem. And I go back to a quote that I believe is attributed to Einstein, but it says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough, right? And so you have to deeply know your mission. Like, what are you really on a mission to do? And how do you keep breaking it down? And really be purposeful in taking the time to set aside and craft. Like, sit down, focus, think about what you're doing. Anytime I have ever started a new role in my life, I work really hard those first few months to not just craft that elevator pitch and leave it on the shelf and say, oh, this is my pitch. I try to come back to it because the work that we are always doing is evolving, right? We are in an evolving world. And so how do I keep that fresh? How do I keep that modern and continue to connect with people and tell my story of where I'm at today?
JC, I'm sorry that I've called you Gene so many times. But
It's
I've
all
now
good, Adam.
I know, we learned
put that to
something, right?
memory. So
We're still friends.
sorry about that. A lot of what they're saying, I agree with it, and so we're gonna share some memorable elevator pitches. But I went through this exercise a few years ago, and we wrote long ones and honed ones, and kind of like Wendell's, you want them to ask you questions. So I know mine is, I'm Adam Jones. I advocate, educate, and communicate on behalf of the engineers and surveyors of South Carolina. And that's one for my clients. The one for my own company, I bumble every time. But that one, when I say that, I expect them to say, well, how do you do that? And so I'm trying to get them to engage me. Mm-hmm. So can you share a memorable elevator pitch you've either said yourself or heard?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was looking over this question, I have to admit, I'm certainly happy to share mine, but one that kept coming back to me was one that I heard very early in my career, and I met a funeral director. And he said to me, he goes, I'm really compelled to help families and people through one of the most difficult times of their lives. And it made me want to talk to him more, rather than walking away from an uncomfortable situation. He kept it short and sweet, and he attached a real human element to it. And for me, that was very, very compelling. My own personal elevator pitch about the work that I do is that I work to connect people to art from around the corner and around the world in an environment that is welcoming to all.
You do well at that. So, Representative Jones?
I think the most memorable one is someone in a similar field. I have a student, and she owns a cemetery. And her elevator pitch is, hello, I'm the last one to lay you down. And it makes you go, what? And that's exactly what you want to happen. And so she managed to make me laugh about a subject that's normally pretty morbid. And so we walked through all of it, so there was no reason for me to pull back. I was fully engaged because I'm still laughing at the thought of, well, you really are the last one to lay us down. And the way that she built upon that, I really could appreciate that because it made me want to ask more questions about her, even to the point where I went out and visited the cemetery. But she accomplished what she wanted to accomplish. And that's a great sale, something that normally brings negative emotions to discuss. If you're able to flip that and make it interesting, even somewhat comical, you can reel people in.
So I actually couldn't think of a memorable one, but I know I've heard many through the years. So I'll just share mine for MP Strategy. I mentioned we're a strategic communications firm, but in an elevator pitch, I would want to say that we help organizations achieve their goals by compelling storytelling. So that's much more impactful than me just saying we are a strategic communications firm. You could ask me, what type of stories do we tell? What types of organizations do we work with? When I say something like that, I'm opening the door for conversation versus just stating a fact. And I think that's the most important part of an elevator pitch, is how are you opening the door for conversation?
So on top of an elevator pitch, can you give us some hints on how to make a memorable first impression, or any tips?
So Adam, this is actually my favorite question that you're going to have this morning, because I think there are so many pieces to making a strong first impression, and one is how you dress. How do you enter the room? There's the saying that you want to dress for the job that you want. That was said to me early on in my career after I graduated college, and I really took that to heart, because even when I was a young professional, I wanted to dress like I was an experienced professional and that I knew what I was doing. And so no matter what room you're in, the way you present yourself can make a really strong first impression. And so I encourage you to always think about, how am I putting my best foot forward in how I appear? And then additionally, it's how you engage with someone. Are you looking them in the eye? Or are you looking around the room to see who else is in the room that you may rather be talking to? It's really important that when you're engaging in a conversation, that you make eye contact with the person that you're speaking with, to let them know you are genuinely interested in the conversation you're having with them. And then, one other thing I'll throw out before passing it to others is, to make a good first impression, there's certain topics that are general and easy. The weather is always safe. You might not want to talk about politics. So keep that in mind, because things like that do matter when it comes to making a first impression, because you could unintentionally turn someone off just by a comment that you made, especially if you don't know someone, you don't know where they stand. And so just say, isn't it a beautiful day? Or how was your drive in? Very general comments are the safest way to go.
That's good. That's great. To leave a good impression, I have to be convinced that you believe what you're saying. So I need to see that there's some passion in the eyes, some inflection in your voice, that you really believe that we've tapped into something that's a mission for you. Because you got to remember, listen, guys, when somebody is even considering doing business with you, they're hoping that you're going to take something off their plate. And they want to give it to the person that they think is going to be most committed to the solution. And so even in your elevator pitch, that needs to be a sign of commitment to what you're trying to say about yourself and eventually about your business. I have to believe that you believe what you're saying, and that you believe that you're the best source for that answer. But also, very importantly, it's the close. How do you close the pitch? There has to be a call to action. The worst thing you could do is, hey, here's my card. Call me if you ever need me. Want one. Never surrender the wheel, the steering wheel. You want to stay in control even at the end. You need to come up with something like, hey, pull your phone out. Let's set up a time to meet. Stay in control, because that also exudes confidence, that well, I'm saying I'm the person you've been looking for. Let me get on your calendar. Stay in control of it. Make them make a decision at the end. Quit being afraid that you're being too aggressive, because this may be your only shot. So seize your moment.
I think you really touched on something that is in my mind, and that is absolutely, it's having confidence in who you are in this space and place. I have the good fortune of working in the arts community where individuals show up every day and their dress or their appearance is a beautiful expression of themselves and their creativity. But what I will say about that is that they universally show up with this true empowered spirit. And I love that. I love that. It brings a different energy into the room, and people want to connect with you when you embody that. And that takes time and that takes work, but it is continuing to refine that in a way so that you can authentically show up with that, because I think that people feel that, right? People feel your energy and what you're bringing and how present you are in that moment.
Very good. This panel's so intuitive. I'm about to skip a question because it was about personal dress, body language, and everything. So I am going to skip to, since we're called headshots and handshakes, I know that my grandfather, when I was very young, taught me how to shake a hand, and he didn't hug me after that day. It was strictly a handshake. That might be called the Ferber method. But anyway, in this day and age, and we thought COVID might kill the handshake, but that didn't. So can you discuss the importance of a handshake, making a positive first impression, and any tips for giving a confident and professional handshake?
So my confession is that I, throughout my entire life, have battled social anxiety. I get very intimidated to walk into new rooms. And early on, I had to figure out how to overcome that and how to move past that challenge. And honestly, it was through learning to shake hands. I found that when I was able to shake the hand of another person, I felt like I had a connection in that room and a friend. You know, if I was in a totally new space, I suddenly was no longer alone. So the handshake became my tool to actually overcome my own fears of networking and linking with others. In doing so, you know, I started out my career in a very male-driven industry, honestly, and I had to learn to present with a level of confidence and connect with a person and look them in the eye so that I was not dismissed for that place of my career.
That's great. I think there's two ends of the spectrum on handshakes. On one end, it's almost like you got two gladiators meeting and we're trying to prove who's the strongest. Don't do that, because then I can't even hear what you're saying because I'm trying to heal now. And then you got the opposite end of the spectrum where we're still afraid we're going to catch COVID from each other, so you barely want to touch each other. That leaves a terrible impression too. I need you to remember that the handshake extends from your hand all the way up to your eyes. So when I'm shaking your hand, I also have to look like I'm interested in meeting you. Strong eye contact, nice eyes, not like I'm staring through your soul, but I'm grateful to be in your presence. And that's welcoming, that's inviting. That's the whole point of it, that when we meet, I want to invite you into my space, which ultimately invites you into this conversation in hopes that we will make this connection. So it goes from my hand all the way up to my eyes.
I think the only thing about a handshake that we haven't really said yet, because Wendell's exactly right, that it does extend all the way up to making sure you're making eye contact with the person, but nobody likes a weak handshake, a sloppy hand. So it's important that you stick your hand out and that you're firm in giving that handshake, but not too firm where you're hurting the other person's hand. So you want to make sure you have a nice grip when you are shaking someone's hand. So I'll just give an anecdotal story. I started my career in Washington, D.C. I knew nobody. I had no family there. I had no college friends there. And part of my role was to network and be in rooms where I didn't know a single person. And so the way that I, like Nicole, that was new for me. I had grown up in the same place, a very close-knit, smaller town where I pretty much knew everybody. And the way that I would break the ice was by putting out my hand, just going up to a group of people that I didn't know, putting out my hand to shake someone's hand and saying, I'm Jean Cecil. And so a handshake can be a wonderful way to just come in and meet a new person when you don't have anything to say yet, but you're making a gesture of like, I would like to start a conversation by reaching out my hand.
Yeah, I can't reiterate that this is like this is a first impression. Like, it's almost, I wouldn't say it's better not to shake hands, but like I remember early in my career going to Washington, D.C., being, kind of starstruck in a room with a congressman and got the limp, clammy handshake, and that's the story I tell. It's like, so that was a first impression that like can never be undone. So there is something to be said about a good handshake. Our last question, is there any additional advice that you'd give someone preparing for a job interview or a networking session?
I'll start with that. Remember that you are in that room for a reason. No one else in that room is more important than you are. You have your own story to tell. And so go in with confidence. We've said a lot this morning that it's so important to be your authentic self. That shows. And so make sure when you are going into a job interview or you're going to a networking event where you're a little nervous about it, do the things that hype you up. Wear your favorite outfit, play your favorite song in the car on the way to that event. Do the things that you know set you up for success to be your most authentic self. I think that's it.
That was awesome. I agree. Just show up knowing you belong. You're not here asking for a handout. You're here because you've taken the time to become great at something. You've invested in yourself. You didn't just show up as a person, you showed up as a problem solver. And you're looking for somebody who has that problem so you can help them. So you belong. So please don't come in thinking that you're second class or you're just glad to be invited. No, I came here with a sense of self-worth, a sense of value, and I'm here to help someone who needs what I have to offer.
I so deeply believe that, and also I think I just want to echo that own where you are in this moment. Own where you want to be and speak that forward, as Wendell said, knowing that you do belong. And then I think my own personal tactic is something that Jean mentioned, and it's very appropriate that we're at Segra, but I have at-bat music. If you happen to pass by me this morning as I was sitting in my car waiting for this event to start, I was listening to my at-bat music, getting my mind right so that I could show up and be present for all of you today. But absolutely, it's knowing who you are in this moment, knowing where you want to be, and connecting with another human.
And I'll add to bring back a couple things that were said earlier, especially for a job interview. I remember my first board chairman told me that if I wasn't 15 minutes early, I was late. Now, I don't live by that, but if you're going to a job interview, be early. Like, if it's at 8 o'clock, don't get there right at 8 o'clock. I think that's very important. That's a big first impression. And two, back to dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Last year I had, and this was just an internship, and I could understand why she thought it wasn't a big deal, but I had a young lady show up in yoga pants and a crop top 5 minutes late. It did not matter what she said in that interview. Like, I almost didn't even take it. So those two things can be a no-go. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Thanks to our great panelists and valued contributions to this great discussion. I would like to open the floor to any questions before we get to our networking exercise. Any questions? Okay, well, on your tables, and those of you who are sitting one, you might want to join another table. We have a little thing for you to try to quickly write a elevator pitch about what you do and to share with your table. And we're going to give you 5 minutes for that, and then we're going to come back, give our door prize, and have our closing remarks. So.
Good job, guys.
Okay, small business leaders, last call to put your business card in with Amy for you to give your 2-minute elevator speech at our next breakout. We got everybody's business card? If you don't have a card, we can give you a name badge that you can put your information on. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, well, we hope you learned something about your people at your table and writing an elevator pitch this morning. Thank you so much for being here. So now we will pull the door prizes, and the 2 people that we pull get a 30-second elevator pitch at our next breakout at R2I2 on March 26th at the Northeast, it's not called addition, but meeting. Sorry. Kimberly Johnson, owner and principal agent at Covered with Care LLC. Yay! All right, so March 30th, be ready to give your elevator pitch. And Tanya Gilly. Oh, very good. So March 30th, elevator pitch. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you March 30th at the Northeast link. Thank you, everyone.